You're listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by Elwea 23. Get ready to hear about all things workforce development and workforce innovation. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to WIN, Workforce Innovation News. I am Jamie Korda-Hijawi, the director for Elwea 23. I am joined today by Kim Kuchenbrod. She is amazing. I'm sure she has an official title that's really long, but I just call her the Apprenticeship and the Talent Pipeline Management Guru. So, Kim, if you don't mind, go ahead and do a little introduction. Give us your official title or titles, and then we'll have a little conversation about some of the stuff you are the expert on.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Yes, I do have a long title. I am the Work-Based Learning and Talent Pipeline Administrator for the Apprenticeship Illinois program. I am contracted through Illinois State University and work very closely with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity with the talent pipeline, serving as a statewide coordinator with that, but also helping guide Apprenticeship Illinois.
There were probably about 7 abbreviations that we could have thrown in there too for all of those entities and organizations that you work with. So yes, pretty awesome. In a nutshell, apprenticeship and talent pipeline management guru for sure. So I wanted to talk to you today a bit about talent pipeline management. We are, as you know, embarking on a journey of establishing more apprenticeships in our economic development region here in Illinois. And we've already had quite a few webinars and podcasts and just general outreach focused on apprenticeships. But there's kind of this buzz drumming up for talent management, talent pipeline management. And I wanted to be able to go a little bit deeper into explaining it and all the wonderful benefits that come from it and what problem it's actually addressing. So can you go ahead and give the listeners a little rundown on what talent pipeline management is?
Sure. The talent pipeline management is a program developed under the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. It started in 2015 with a white paper and 7 pilot sites. Fast forwarding to 2022, it's now been embraced in 40 states and 4 foreign countries. So what is Talent Pipeline? Talent Pipeline is a process. It's an end-to-end process to make the employers or to help the employers be the beneficiary of looking at how they can develop their talent and learning how to communicate more effectively with their training providers what their actual needs are. So it's really using supply chain management concepts, but using it in talent development.
That is a very interesting application of the supply chain management. We all know we've had some supply chain issues across the nation recently, but one of the other issues we've had is a workforce issue. There's been a shortage of skilled labor, skilled employees, especially in rural America, I would say. There's the brain drain. We are producing some pretty wonderful talent, but they're leaving. So that leaves us with a very small pool to pull from. So the big issue right now is how do we grow that talent pool and how do we connect that talent pool to our local employers? So how safe do you think it is to say that talent pipeline management is going to address that issue of the local talent pools, especially in rural America?
I understand rural area is an issue of concern. I would throw out the question to the local rural employers, what are you doing to engage with that young talent? Are you waiting for them to find you, or are you engaging with your training providers? And when I reference training providers, that's K-12 all the way up through your apprenticeship training programs, your 2-year, 4-year universities. Anybody that provides an education is considered a training provider. So are the employers, again, waiting for the talent to find them? And one way employers can address this is help develop a value stream. And the value stream actually is strategy 5 in Talent Pipeline. And some of the ways that they can engage with them is very simple. For example, are they recruiting from high school students who are going to go directly into the workforce? Are they aware of how many CTE programs are established within their community or their economic development region? And what is the enrollment in those programs? Are the businesses helping develop job shadowing, internships, pre-apprenticeships, apprenticeships to show that the students, instead of doing the brain drain or escaping to the larger communities and so forth, that they can find a career and they can find and develop a substantial way of living right there in their own backyard. And sometimes when you think rural communities, the thing that everybody first comes to mind when you say rural is ag industry or working on a farm. And that is so not true. There's a lot of industries that are in the rural area that they are hurting for talent and they are hurting to build their own pipeline. But again, the employers have to take ownership on helping engage those young people and not waiting or relying on the young people to come find them.
You just hit on like several golden nuggets that had my brain cells just firing away at each other. I love that. Really, I think what it boils down to is talent pipeline management really is a connection between employers and the training providers. And when you talk about the training providers being anyone who supplies education, and I think traditionally we do think about universities and community colleges. And then I think now it's not too hard to think about high school either. But you mentioned K through 12. So can we unpack that a little bit more? What kind of relationship would you see between employers and that primary school age, looking at middle school and into the younger years? What would that relationship look like? And how do you think that would benefit the employers?
Sure. There are some requirements for the elementary and middle schools to engage with career awareness. And one way that they're doing that is they are reaching out to industries to put together not a career fair, but basically a job fair. What they're really doing is looking at career awareness fairs and events. And some employers, and first of all, the employers are going to look at you and say, why in the world would I want to engage with a kindergarten student or a third grader or even a junior high student? What value am I going to bring to them? They need to look a little broader and say, think about who brings those individuals, those little kids, our future workforce, who brings those to those events? The moms, the dads, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmas, the grandpas, the neighbors, everyone engaging that. So the employers can use that event as a way to showcase the opportunities, the job opportunities that they're looking for, but also they're going to find some untapped talent by working with that way. So one of the areas I was just working with a group yesterday that is, how do you work with DEI? How do you diversify your workforce? And how do you even work with students who have special needs? And right now, through Apprenticeship Illinois, we have developed a few DOL, Department of Labor, registered apprenticeships for students who are in a STEP program. And that is, they have to do some career awareness or career preparation. And we're creating those apprenticeships so those young people can earn and learn while they're still in even high school. And then, of course, they get that skill set and they're proving that to the employer so that when they do graduate, of course, from high school, then they could possibly be walking right into employment and not having to rely on other financial resources as much. So another way that businesses can engage in that younger group is when you have, well, let me back up. I was involved in one event where we had a tour of industries and we got together with all the manufacturers. And of course, manufacturing has the stigma of dirty, grimy, sweaty work. And that's not true. You can walk into many manufacturing plants today and bring a sack lunch and sit down on the floor and have an actual picnic with your friends because it is so clean and so safe. And so what we did is we did a big, almost like when you have a community event and you get to open the doors for these employers and you get to go in, you see it, touch it, feel it, and even taste granola bars and things like that are being manufactured in your own community. And when you open it up to the community, not only are you letting the students come in and see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, but everyone, the older workers in your community that retired, but then they might find a new passion and say, you know what, I'm not really ready for that rocking chair. So let me re-engage with the workforce. But what you end up doing is you draw a large crowd back from those metropolitan areas. And they're saying, wow, the rural areas does have a lot to offer. And it's not as crowded. There's more community parks, more natural resource to get involved in, and the cost of living is less than it is in a metropolitan area. So when we've had events like this, it's just not 20, 30 people showing up, it's thousands of people showing up. So the employers can very quickly take advantage of that, even though they're showcasing the products that are manufactured within their region. They could also have their HR team out there accepting applications to go through after the event.
I really like how it's essentially not only killing two birds with one stone. You get those elementary school and middle school children to get that career exploration, but we're also then getting touch points with the parents, with the caregivers who are of working age and maybe looking for new opportunities. And then the community events, like that almost creates this ripple effect. So by having a more intentional outreach plan that on the surface might seem like, that's something that's going to pay off 10, 15 years down the road, it's actually making some ripples immediately, not just the ones that are coming out later down the line. So that's a very beneficial way of looking at it and really like thinking it through, not just taking it on the surface, but looking deeper. That's really awesome.
Another way to look at it too on engaging at that elementary and middle school area is there are programs, there are science programs, there's art programs, there's science programs. All of this is going on with the students and even the math classes. And how do you take real world applications and apply it to the students so that they can see why they're learning this particular unit, the study? And the businesses can actually serve as curriculum advisors. I mean, they're serving as advisors with the community college, but why not serve as a curriculum advisor for those middle school students or for those high school students? And the other part of it is actually coming in and serving as a mentor. There's a pre-engineering program that's a national program called Project Lead the Way, and it's been adapted by many, many schools. And it's basically introducing students to the concept of working in a team environment, critical thinking, problem solving, and designing robotics, for example. So why not have a manufacturer serve as an advisor or a mentor, not only for the teacher, but for the students as they're going through the projects? Of course, then the students start to say, oh, yeah, my uncle works there, or my dad works there, or my mom works there. And it gives that sense of pride. And it gives not pride only with the students, but those mentors. And the company ends up retaining those individuals because these adults are giving back something, not only to their community, but if their child's in the classroom, it's a way for them to showcase what they're doing as well.
Absolutely. That's so interesting. So I know there's probably plenty of employers listening right now and thinking, we do some of this stuff already, but who's going to use talent pipeline management, or who would be the owner of that type of initiative? And how would businesses more consciously implement some of the strategies that go with talent pipeline management?
Sure. Well, for Apprenticeship Illinois, we have regional navigators within our each 10 economic development regions. And our navigators are serving as the conveners, which is strategy one of talent pipeline. And I like to call them Switzerland because they're going to be working with some confidential information coming in from the employers, but the convener will always aggregate the results and give it back to the collaborative. So the navigator's role is to really identify a particular sector, whether it's culinary arts, healthcare, manufacturing, banking, public service, whatever it may be, and bring those like industries to the table. And once they have them at the table, the navigator is going to guide them through the playbook, the talent pipeline playbook, which consists of those 6 strategies. And you know what? There's going to be times when a particular employer is going to sit back and watch it and see what happens with the results. And then they're going to come to the table later. And that's okay, because then everybody finds out, ooh, I want a piece of this pie. And the pie isn't a financial, the pie is return on investment and looking at the demand planning. And so all this data is aggregated. So in strategy 2, what the navigators are going to be working with is walking the participants, the company participants, through looking at what are your demands within the next 12 to 18 months in new and replacement positions. What competencies are you specifically looking for in your positions? And what they're doing is they're developing a common language so that the employers can then go back to their training providers and speak in one voice to say, look, this is what our needs are over this time period. And if you're working with a community college, number one, do you have the capacity to expand your programs? And are you willing to add these additional competencies or remove these competencies that are no longer required for these positions that we're looking for? And so they're doing their demand planning, they're looking at their competencies and what credentials are acceptable. There's so many times you can ask an employer, when was the last time you looked at and or updated your job descriptions? And it's been going on for a couple of decades now where the job description says that you have to have a bachelor's degree. So we ask the employers to really look at it and say, do you really need to have that bachelor's degree? Or can you say associate's degree and so many years of experience, an apprenticeship and so many years of experience? From a high school student, CTE classes. And of course, they're going to go in at the entry level, but were they involved in a youth apprenticeship? So when the employer sets that bar high of saying a bachelor's degree, think about it from individual's perspective. They may have all the talent, they may have all of those competencies, but as soon as they see that bachelor's degree, they say, I'm not qualified. So what happens is the employers miss out on a large talent pool. So you take away the bachelor's degree and you start listing, these are the competencies that we need for this particular position. And they're going to increase the number of candidates applying for that position. Because yes, and I say this very respectfully, there are positions that do require those advanced degrees, but there are many that do not. And right now we have a huge talent gap because we set that bar so high, and not everyone can either afford to go to college or even are interested in college or saying, you know what, it's not for me. I learn differently. So why not look at all of the ways people learn and then turn around and look at the competencies for the job requirement and hire on the competencies and not by the degree. And so after that, when we look at all of this data, and some employers would say, you know what, you're asking for some confidential information, and I have a competitor sitting across the table. How do I know that you're not going to tell them what my needs are? And so the convener, what they do is they aggregate the data and they share it back collectively. So if a healthcare provider, for example, needed CNA, certified nursing assistants, and let's say company A needed 20 and company B needed 10. Okay, when they look at that data, they're going to look at it, there are 30. Then you multiply that by all the other healthcare providers in the area, and they're going to look at that and say, now I know why I'm having difficulties filling the positions, because in this region alone, there are 1,200 CNAs needed. And our pipeline with our training providers are only producing 300 CNAs. So I'm going to have to look outside my area to find the CNAs. I need to maybe look at my own in-house training and my training providers. And if I'm getting all my CNAs from one training provider, I put all my eggs in one basket. So now I need to look at diversifying where I'm finding all of my talent. And that's back mapping. And a lot of employers can address that through their HRIS systems. They know where they're finding their talent, and they know which ones are being retained and which ones are not.
So talent pipeline management, essentially, it's industry led, it's data driven. All of it's really at the local level. It's not someone from a different state or from a different city telling you what your needs are. And it is very much a comprehensive assessment at the local level as well. So it sounds like it is designed to really fit the needs of exactly what the local employers have. It's very much tailor fit to the local pipeline that's already there and looking to strengthen and robust. And it really sounds like this is something that we should have been doing for a long time. So what other advice or suggestions do you have, or things that you just want local employers listening, you want them to know in order to be more intentional with talent pipeline management and to get started utilizing it in our local area to make our talent pipeline stronger?
My recommendation would be, we understand what your pain points are. You're not alone. Everyone in your region are trying to fill unfilled positions. They're trying to retain their talent, and they're trying to find ways to upskill their talent that they already have so they can retain them. And these are the three areas of concern that every employer is dealing with right now. So don't try to fight it alone. Reach out to one of the local navigators across the state of Illinois, and that information can be found on the Apprenticeship Illinois website. And reach out to them, join a collaborative, and collectively you have more strength in working with a collaborative than trying to battle it by yourself. Because working with one voice, you can change policies, you can change program development, and you can actually make a difference with those young people and directing them towards these career pathways. So again, working in a team environment is more successful than trying to battle it yourself. The data that you will receive from engaging in a sector partnership brings together not only like industries, but it also brings all of the training providers to the table. So everyone is developing one common language to address all of these issues.
Wonderful. So eloquently put. So just to repeat, if you're looking for more information on talent pipeline management, you can check out apprenticeshipillinois.com. You can reach out to your local workforce innovation area workforce development group. So for our area, that's us, LWIA 23. Yeah. And there's strength in numbers. So don't go at it alone. Come together with your competitors and work together to get some change and make the environment more successful for your business. So awesome, Kim. Thank you so much for joining me and talking about talent pipeline management. I'm excited to see what we do with it in the next few months coming up and how it's going to have not only some very lasting long-term effects, but even some of the short-term successes that we have in the near future. So thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me today.
You've been listening to Workforce Innovation News powered by LWIA 23. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about LWIA 23, visit lwa23.net.